Without a doubt, the Middle Eastern people have relied on the Euphrates River as a key supply of life and food for countless years. The river's gradual decline in recent years, however, has worried and alarmed many who depend on it. However, in a startling turn of incidents, the river known as Euphrates has now dried up, exposing a fact that might have been kept secret for decades. So, is the genuine Euphrates River drying up due to the impending realization of Revelation's passages, or is there an additional factor we need to be aware of? Well, I don't mean to sound terrible or something, but it appears that moment is drawing near. Would you like to learn more? Let's watch the video right away. The river's border comprises land shared by 3 states: Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Its drainage is shared by a total of 5 nations and is home to approximately 23 million people. The river's health is not in excellent form, though. Researchers are astonished at the speed at which it is receding. Many Christians are keeping an eye on the Euphrates River, which is close to drying up and is mentioned in a Bible text concerning it that mentions 4 angels who have fallen after it began to dry up. Several cultures have thrived along the shores of the Euphrates, particularly since history. One of the oldest and most prominent empires in the area was the Mesopotamian Empire. Ancient Mesopotamia was referred to as the Fertile Crescent because it lay among the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. The current moniker for that area of the world is Iraq. The Euphrates River passes through many different ecological zones. Historical flora still exists in the Euphrates Basin, even though most of its landscapes have been significantly impacted by human activities over centuries. It might be hard to imagine that this portion of the river was once a shining example of water conservation in Babylon, given the way the river currently looks. The army of Cyrus the emperor marched through Babylon and arrived at the canals that connected the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. They were constructed to divert the rivers of water from the Euphrates that would normally flood the entire nearby land when the covering of snow from the Armenian mountains disappeared. The basin connecting the Euphrates and Tigris rivers was crossed by several large canals as wide as rivers. Every part of the nation received enough irrigation. The canals also served as a means of transporting crops. The river was also used by religious fighters to promote Islam throughout the Middle East. The Islamic Caliphate of Muhammad's son-in-law, Ali ibn Abi Talib, was relocated from Medina to Kufa, which is located on the Euphrates River, south of Babylon, in the calendar year 656. Kufa's lush wheat dates the palm, grain, and various other agricultural land stretched for miles on both sides of the river. Many Iraqi cities' identities have been centered on the Euphrates for millennia and continue to do so now. Consider Fallujah, which benefited from its riverfront location and was attacked by a variety of nations in the 3rd millennium AD, including the Persians and the Romans. On their journey to the Mediterranean, Arab caravans halted at Fallujah to water the camels in the river. However, analysts are predicting bad things for the river. According to a water ministry study, the rivers Tigris and Euphrates in Iraq will dry up in 20 years if absolutely nothing is done. Unluckily, both of these rivers provide up to 98% of the available surface water in Iraq. Iraq might be unlikely to possess any rivers by 2040. But what exactly is causing the Euphrates River to dry up? It's a difficult problem. But disagreements, global warming, and reckless dam building in adjacent nations have all contributed to a shortage of water that affects the daily lives of thousands of citizens in the entire area. Iraq's yearly temperatures are rising about twice as quickly as the world average, as reported by Berkeley Earth, a California-based charitable organization specializing in climate studies. Iraq has increased its temperature by a startling 2.5 degrees Celsius throughout the late 1800s, compared to the worldwide median of 1.3 degrees Celsius. The human-caused portion of the Euphrates issues, on the other hand, begins over 1,000 kilometers downstream, close to the river's drainage region in eastern Turkey, beneath the Taurus Mountains. For many years, the Turkish government has focused on building dams to improve land for agriculture and provide electricity. The Keben Dam on the highest Euphrates was built in 1974, while the Ataturk Dam was finished in 1990. A $32 billion initiative to build 22 dams and 19 hydroelectric dams on the rivers Euphrates and Tigris will ultimately supply around 25% of Turkey's electricity needs. Syria built several other reservoirs on the Euphrates and its associated rivers, as well as the Tapka Dam in the 1970s, upstream of Raqqa, before the civil war stopped work. Water entering Iraq has dropped by almost two-thirds since the Turkish and Syrian reservoirs were constructed in the 1970s. Iraqis and nations adjacent to them have been engaged in water-related conflict for centuries. When Turkey and Syria blocked the Euphrates River into several kilometers of reservoirs that hold water virtually drying off the river's downstream flow in Iraq, the situation came perilously close to devolving into war. In response, the Iraqi government built a network of canals connecting the Euphrates River in Iraq to Lake Al-Farthar, northwest of Baghdad. According to the Iraqi ministry, just over one-third of the Euphrates River's initial capacity will be reached by 2035. Due to an annual loss of Tigris water, Iraq is going to run out of 80% of the 53 million square liters it needs annually. Additionally, a recent NASA and German government research using satellite data found that outside of India, the Euphrates and Tigris region loses fresh water at the fastest rate on Earth. Iraq has been listed as one of the countries that would experience extremely severe shortages of water by the year 2040 by the World Resources Institute, which is an independent ecological organization with its main office in the United States. The impacts of the Euphrates draining up are already being felt by the Iraqi people. According to aid agencies, Iraq's present shortage of water already poses an imminent danger to the well-being of at least 10 million citizens and limits their access to nourishment and electricity. Up to 70% of the grain grown in northern Iraq may be lost. To make things better, the water supply would have to be redone, which might cost somewhere between $60 billion and $80 billion, just lacking, signaling impending hunger in the affected nation. In addition, when dams fail, there are fewer electrical resources available to power hospitals and other crucial facilities. It has been believed that this incident is related to the events described in the Bible's book of Revelation, considering there are just a handful of reasonable explanations for why the river is starting to dry up. Interestingly, because it is stated in the Bible, fewer individuals find the development surprising because they think it was pretty much a given. The approaching end of the world, as predicted in the Bible happening in front of people's eyes, is what most frightens them. According to a lot of individuals, significant sections in the prophetic book of Revelation show how essential Iraq is in situations involving the demise of the world. The Euphrates River is addressed in chapter 16 of Revelation. According to the chapter, the Euphrates, an enormous river, received the vessel of the sixth angel, and its water became dried up so that the path would be made ready for the rulers to come from the east. The sixth angel, as stated in this text, cast the vessel into the Euphrates. The river dried up because of the bowl's material, and prior bowl judgments had contaminated or ruined most of the world's water supply. This choice will not have any impact on how this water is used. It looks to be about pulling down a defense so that eastern kings can enter, rather than about defending the area. The Euphrates is referred to in the Bible 5 times as the Great River. It represented the eastern limit of Israel's past. Israel was capable of getting across the river, which was challenging, and was cut off from the land of promise of Canaan by an empty land to the west. Israel found some measure of safety in the river. It travels about 2,000 miles toward Palestine before heading southeast and moving toward the Persian Gulf. The monarchies of China and India were located to the east of the Euphrates, which divided east from west at the time Revelation was composed in the 1st century. Cyrus of Persia's army once conquered Babylon by redirecting the Euphrates River that flowed through the city. They marched into Babylon and took control of the city on the dry riverbank. The eastern conqueror was going to cross the Euphrates during the Great Tribulation, advance through Babylon, and then enter Palestine. The sixth angel holding the trumpet in Revelation 9:14 issues the order to release the 4 heavenly hosts who are imprisoned at the great river Euphrates. What does this mean? This is the sound that John hears emanating from each of the 4 pillars of the golden altar, according to Exodus 27:2. This voice commands the sixth angel, who is holding the trumpet, to release the 4 angels who were imprisoned at the Euphrates River, which used to be formerly the boundary between Assyria and Israel. The message of Revelation serves as a reminder that God is eventually in control of these events and either announces or authorizes each one. Evil will never be permitted to fully rule at the end times. We know they are devils since they are bound. These 4 angels are held captive in the Euphrates Valley, which has a murky history involving human wrongdoing. Fallen angels, known as demons, are often bound by chains of dreadful darkness. The Euphrates Valley, which is frequently described as being near the Garden of Eden, is probably the site of the first killing. There were lately detected unsettling noises emanating from the river's depths, which may validate this route. This strengthens people's convictions that contemporary events point to Christ's second coming to vanquish his enemies and set up his glorious kingdom. People have started to express their worries, noting the fact that they had no belief that the discoveries would be able to make any sense. Other theories connect current occurrences across the Euphrates to political ends and global warming. But the most compelling belief concerning the river is that it is predicted in the Bible. However, the unforeseen result of the drying up of the Euphrates River is as follows. Archaeological findings. Many of these formerly drowned places spring to life when the banks of rivers dry up. 6 distinct periods in history have been identified in the Euphrates River, but according to scientists, Sumerian, Greek, Akkadian, Assyrian, Byzantine, and Islamic. Syria built the Euphrates Dam in 1968 without changing the course of the Euphrates River or making lakes in the arid landscape. The lake created by the dam, which is 100 kilometers long and 8 kilometers wide, flooded the most significant historical sites alongside the river, saving just a few structures and artifacts. Thousands of Syriac Christian monasteries and graves can be found in this location. When the rays of the sun rise and the lake's water is apparent, the sunken graves are easily visible. A few burials have been discovered on the right bank of the lake in Raqqa's western district. However, the opposite side has not been as completely researched since it is rockier, which renders excavating hard. The retreating waters of the Euphrates River in Anna, Iraq, uncovered the old town of Talbs. In reality, Iraqi researcher Muhammad Jassim said that the Haditha Dam's decreased water level contributed to the discovery of at least 80 archaeological sites. The Antiquities Ministry in Duhak, Iraq's Kurdistan region, has revealed the finding of a 3,400-year-old Mitanni Empire city uncovered when flooding in the Tigris River basin subsided. Babylonian sources identify the historic town of Zakiko. It has various structures, notably a royal residence, a massive barrier, and discovered ancient texts. The investigators were astounded by the extent to which some of the sun-dried underground walls of mud had kept up after more than 40 years. This is most likely due to the earthquake that destroyed the city. The city was submerged and preserved for centuries by the remains of the higher parts of the walls. 5 pottery vessels holding over 100 ancient tablets, several of which remain in their clay packages, were also remarkably well maintained. The submerged survival of unaltered clay tablets is considered a miracle by Peter Falsner, an archaeological researcher at the University of Tübingen. The team believes that the tablets, some of them may be letters, will reveal further information about the city's history and its prehistoric inhabitants. Please share your ideas in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and click the bell icon for additional updates.